Hello there. I'm Jason McDonald. Namaste. I hope everybody's good. Happy Wednesday. Today I want to talk about, I titled this talk, Compassion and Ocean of Goodness, because that's really what it is. And it's something that can give us inconceivable benefits. In fact, the benefits of compassion are so inconceivable that it's really easy for us it takes time to understand the infinite number of benefits that come from compassion. So that's really what I want to talk about. I don't have a long time to talk today, so probably will be a fairly quick talk. And see if I don't know how much, I don't know if this video or this mic is really loud enough for you guys. So anyway, I was meditating today. I was doing what's called Tonglen meditation. Tonglen is, it means giving and taking in Tibetan. And what Tonglen consists of is taking the suffering. It's a visualization practice combined with your breathing, your inhaling of the breath and exhaling of the breath. So as you inhale, you visualize taking the suffering of all sentient beings. When you exhale, you visualize giving all sentient beings all of your good karma, your wealth, your body, and anything that can help these sentient beings. What's ironic is these are individuals that you've never met, right? So from a purely Western psychological perspective, this type of meditation is highly unusual given the way we were raised and the way we think about ourselves and the world around us. Having said that, I believe definitively in my heart and my brain, so both, you know, from an emotional, heartfelt perspective and a logical perspective, I believe deeply that compassion is an ocean of goodness. And the qualities of compassion, the positive qualities, are inconceivable. The reason that I say this is, and it takes time to get to this understanding, I've learned that my path in meditation has been, it's not linear, right? It's not up. It's not just like on a graph, you know, you see a linear line. It goes from left to right, right? So from the x-axis up to the y-axis. My meditation path has not been that way. Mine is not linear. It's more like circular. And I'm on a circle. I'm on a circular motion where I keep kind of passing realizations I've already had in other meditation sessions a year ago, but the realizations are getting stronger and stronger as I continue to circle. The reason I even share that about the circle is because if you're thinking that your meditation path is linear, you're going to, when you circle, meaning you have a realization and then you kind of backslide and you do something negative again, where maybe you get angry or you get frustrated, and you act out in a way that kind of contradicts the realization you had before. I think when that happens, if you don't understand that the path can be circular, as it is, I believe, for most people, then you might come to the conclusion that you're not doing something right, or maybe you're failing in your meditation journey, which is not really the case. But back to my original topic of compassion, the reason I'm calling it an ocean of benefit or an ocean of goodness is because it's so inconceivably beneficial that it's difficult to verbalize, it's difficult to articulate the power and the benefits that come from compassion. And this warrants a further explanation. So what you have to understand, what we have to understand, is that all suffering comes from this innate selfishness, this inherent self-grasping that we all have and that we all sort of are in one way or another. And what I mean by that is taking the self to be higher and more important than the other, 8 point something billion humans on planet Earth and the infinite, inconceivable number of other life forms, including animals, insects, etc. So, taking the self to be more important than those infinite number of other living beings is so toxic and so it creates so much pain and suffering for us and for others that it's once again it's inconceivable. It's of inconceivable negativity. It is so negative that for me to try to articulate it, my words could never truly nail down the amount of badness that comes out of selfishness. Every moment of suffering we've ever experienced came from selfishness. Um, Now you might say, well, I was a victim at some point. Something happened to me. Somebody hurt me. And if that's the case, I don't want you to think that I'm dismissing your suffering, because I'm not. I'm not dismissing your suffering. But that suffering came from self-cherishing in you and the person that harmed you. And here's what I mean by that. As it pertains to the person that harmed you, of course they were selfish. They had self-cherishing in their mind, because if you harm somebody, the only way to harm them is through self-cherishing. Okay? So that's really something that's important to look at. It's important to understand one individual cannot harm another individual unless they're selfish. So that's the first thing. And then the person that receives the harm, it's a very delicate thing to even talk about, because on one hand, if I'm truly honest, I must explain that the person receiving the harm can only really receive harm if they're selfish. If you're completely selfless, if you only have love and compassion for all other living beings, if somebody harms you, you won't even feel it. There's a saying that if a Buddha, a fully enlightened being, a Buddha doesn't have any partiality. If somebody on the left side of their body applies cologne or nicely scented water, and the other person stabs them, that Buddha doesn't have a difference in perception in terms of thinking this person's bad and this person's good. Now, most of us, it's so hard to understand that because we're eons away from that level of perception. However, I think what you can understand is just you really have to analyze your own experiences, and we have to understand all of the experiences that we've had in our life, and we have to ask ourselves, to what degree did my ego cause my own suffering? And when I say ego, I'm just using that as a blanket term to define the self-importance, the thought of self-importance, okay? So when we think about the degree to which our own selfishness and ego causes our own harm, I would venture to guess it's 99% of our own suffering comes from our own ego. Even when somebody does something to us, let's just say they verbally do something, and let's just exclude violence or some sort of really bad physical assault, which I have a lot of compassion for anybody that's experienced that type of thing. It's not okay. So having said that, when somebody does something to us, if instead of cherishing ourselves and thinking only of me, if we change our whole mentality, we can get to a point where we really don't suffer. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there's something called LoJong. LoJong, Lo means mind, Jong means transformation or training. It could also be called thought transformation, mind training. So LoJong is this whole series of teachings that help you as a practitioner twist your every moment of your life from negative to positive. So when somebody does something to us, instead of getting mad at that person, we can twist our whole perception and look at them as our teacher. In fact, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, it is widely known from practitioners that sentient beings are just as beneficial to us as Buddhas. Buddhas are the ones that teach us the Dharma, the teachings, the truth. They teach us the truth about reality, but sentient beings are the ones that come and bump us. They bump up against us and they do things to us that show us our own pride, arrogance, jealousy, selfishness, greed, anger. Without sentient beings, we can't experience these things, and therefore it is sentient beings that are the moisture that ripen the seed of Buddhahood. So all is, as you can see, all this plays into the ocean of goodness that comes, that is compassion. Compassion is an ocean of goodness. Taking the last example I gave, if sentient beings are the water that waters the seed of Buddhahood, then compassion for them will take us further on that path. So in other words, if a sentient being does something to us and comes in and says, "That's an ugly shirt, Jason, you look fat in that shirt," and then if I flip that using LoJong and look at them as my teacher and look at them as the person that's trying to educate me about my own selfish mind, that person can take me that much further on the path towards enlightenment. So that compassion, my ability to have compassion for them when they say something negative to me, my ability to understand that if somebody says something negative to me that hurts me, more than likely they're hurting themselves. They're devoid of some level of feeling okay, that feeling of okayness that they're not having, that would cause them to say something like that. They're hurting. They need love. The very fact that they would tell me I'm fat and my shirt's ugly means that they are lacking. They need love. They need somebody to unconditionally accept them for who they are. So compassion's an ocean of goodness. The other thing is, when you think about an ocean, I'm going to give you a little bit of what you might consider to be a potentially aggressive or difficult analogy. I want to explain that when you think about compassion as an ocean of goodness, think about that compassion having the capacity to drown the toxic enemy of selfishness. If you understand selfishness, if you really understand it at a deep level in your heart, then you know that selfishness is your only real enemy. Because you see, if we didn't have selfishness, every moment would be blissful. Really, every moment would be blissful because we wouldn't be tied up in our conceptual overthinking of every moment of our existence. Overthinking all of the things we want and need and desire. And, oh, he did this to me, or, oh, this isn't just quite right. Oh, am I sick? Oh, man, do I need to go to the doctor? Oh, my God. There's, this countless parade of conceptual difficulties that come as a result of selfishness. So the ocean of compassion can completely free us from selfishness. It's taking me a long time to get there. Perhaps I didn't have the natural level of compassion that I wish I had, but I'm working on it every day, trying to work on it every day so that I can expand that ocean of compassion. By the way, what is compassion? I should have explained this. It is the wish for other living beings not to suffer, according to Buddhism. Compassion is the wish for other living beings not to suffer. Love is the wish for them to have happiness. So if we cultivate the infinite ocean of compassion, then what's going to happen is our selfishness and our self-importance and the thought of the self will slowly dissipate. And that selfishness is toxic. Okay? It's utterly toxic. And we have to understand that in order to have any real peace and any real happiness, we must drown that toxicity in the ocean of compassion. Okay, so that ocean of goodness, that ocean of compassion, is inconceivably beneficial for us and for others. Why is it inconceivably beneficial for us? Because it can drown the toxicity of self-cherishing. It can drown the thought that torments us for our whole lives, whether we know it or not. Selfishness torments us again and again. If we're not selfish, every moment of our life would be blissful, because we'd have no desire, no need for achievement, for me to get my needs met. Instead, we'd be like Mother Teresa, thinking only about others. Like Gandhi, who was willing to fast in order to move India ahead to independence. Inconceivable suffering Gandhi experienced in order to benefit the people of India. Okay. So this ocean of goodness that we call compassion has the power. My opinion is, and this might be hard to understand, my opinion is that it is in fact a panacea. It's a silver bullet. It's a single thing that can fix everything. This morning during my meditation, I was thinking about the fires in California, the hurricanes in the southeast of the US, COVID virus, and I was thinking of compassion as a solution to all these things. And the reason I say that is it is selfishness that causes us to deforest the planet and cut down all the trees. Those trees being cut down are killing our ecosystems, causing droughts, causing dryness, causing fires, and exacerbating the storms, the tropical storms and the hurricanes. COVID-19 was caused potentially by these wet markets where people are buying and selling live animals and killing them, cutting their heads off. And all of this is selfishness. If you have a vast ocean of compassion in your heart, you will not think so much about yourself to the degree that you're going to do these things that cause infinite suffering for yourself and others. So that's why I'm titling this short talk an ocean of goodness, an ocean of compassion, an inconceivable reservoir of happiness and goodness. That's what compassion is. And there's a book I was reading by Sangye, and I'm bad about Tibetan enunciation. Sangye Nyempes, I think his name's. I'll tell you the title of the book because I can pronounce English. The title is called Tilopa's Mahamudra Upadesha. Sangye, the author is Sanges Nyenpa. The book's about the topic of emptiness, specifically the Ganges Mahamudra, which Tilopa gave Naropa. And in the book, Sanges talks about stake driving intensity. And I love that term, stake driving intensity. Now imagine driving a stake into the ground with a big hammer, and that stake driving intensity to develop compassion. If we develop compassion with stake driving intensity, our whole life will get better. And there are practices, and maybe I should put this up on my channel. There are practices about how to develop this infinite, inconceivable compassion. One of those practices being Tonglen, breathing, visualization where you're breathing out white light and love to all sentient beings, and you're inhaling their suffering and their negative karma. That is the quintessential practice of compassion. And there's the 7-point cause and effect meditation, where you first analyze the kindness of your mother, and then you expand it out to all living beings. So there are these practices. Again, I should probably put these practices up on my channel. There are these practices to cultivate love and compassion. As a starting point, what you can do is just analyze the disadvantages of self-cherishing. And you really have to be courageous and honest in order to be able to do this. Courageous about the suffering that comes from the toxicity of me, and honest about the suffering that comes from selfishness. And you will start to see the disadvantages of selfishness, and then you'll see the advantages of compassion and love. Inconceivable benefits come from this. So I hope this helped everybody. I truly believe that to the degree we harness, develop, and cultivate this ocean of goodness called compassion, each one of us can be completely freed of the burdens of this existence that we're all going through day to day. Okay? I love you all, sending you my unconditional love and blessings. And I dedicate the merit from this meditation to all sentient beings. Bye.